Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to yet another chapter release. This time, all things Wicked coming through with the Unknown and Sable and all the wonderful perks that come along with those. I'm not really going to be going into covering like all the different small changes that happen to the killers throughout, like, you know, Clown, Doctor, Huntress, because I already give my thoughts about those in the dev update, and those largely have not changed in any significant way. So if you want my thoughts on those are already in a video. We're going to be focusing specifically today on how I feel about the Unknown and Sable and her perks. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. First off, in terms of the Unknown, I have never had a simultaneous joy and hatred of playing a killer at the exact same time. The Unknown is a character that when they feel good, they feel really, really good, but when they feel bad, they feel really, really, really bad. And it's just the experience of playing the Unknown is experiencing both at the same time, often frequently a bunch in the same match, which I think it's funny because, like, in terms of the greater Dead by Daylight community, a lot of people are either like, I love the Unknown or I absolutely hate the Unknown, and I can see why, because I'm experiencing both of those feelings like multiple times a match, every match. So in terms of the things that feel good is, like, there's a lot of like there's a very, very high ceiling to this character. A lot of people have related them to Singularity, and I think that's an apt comparison. Just like Singularity, the Unknown seems to have a very, very high skill ceiling that if you actually put in the time and work to learn some of the more difficult stuff about the character, you can get a lot of value out of them and their power and their kit. However, as a result, very not beginner friendly, and the amount of effort you have to put in to do the same thing that other characters can do better can often come off as very, very frustrating and demanding all the time, which is what, you know, wards people away from playing Larry a lot, is the fact that, yeah, Singularity can be really, really good once you master them, but they're a very, very demanding character, and characters can do the same things that Larry can do, except in like 3 or 4 less steps than you do. And Unknowns unfortunately kind of suffers from this at the same time. I will say that in terms of like the wall bangs and the ricochet shots, there's a very, very, very high potential to this character, and it's why a lot of people are very enthusiastic and happy about them. This is definitely going to be one of those characters you see a bunch of Twitter clips about, of people posting their cool shots and stuff. The one that's been very, very funny is that, like, hitting people on multi-floor maps, like shooting shots through like Midwitch's floors or the meatpacking plant's floors. That's very, very funny, and that's a thing that they can do. The thing that I liked a lot, which I'll probably put some B-roll footage up thereof, is like my favorite killer perk in the game is already Nowhere to Hide. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful anti-rat perk, but synergizes super duper well with the Unknown, because if you have that aura reading and somebody's going around a loop and they're hugging the wall, you could just wall bang them right there. Stuff like that, just really, really funny. It makes this character really, really interesting, and that on top of the ricochet shots can be really satisfying. I like going for the most maximum range shots possible and going artillery and just like shooting it very, very far and hoping I can hit people. Like, that feeling of hitting that is really, really hilarious. However, the character is also fairly clunky. There's a lot of things about it that are just, why do some shots bounce and some don't? There's not really like conceivable logic to why it bounces sometimes and not others. Sometimes I would really, really need a bounce hit, but it just explodes immediately. Other times I'm aiming for a bounce hit and then it just blows up immediately. The hit registry on the splash is very like hit or miss. Like, sometimes somebody will have their like full leg and half of their body inside the splash radius and it won't hit them for some reason. And other times you'll get like their pinky toe and then you'll hit them. Like, it doesn't seem very consistent, which makes aiming and going for shots very inconsistent as a result, and very, very frustrating as a result. I think it's just in general, there's kind of like, if you've played other projectile killers before playing this one, you're going to have a little bit of like cognitive dissonance going on, because the whole point of the Unknown is to miss your shots on purpose, which is going to be a very, very hard adjustment period for you, because you only can do damage with the splash and not the direct hit. The direct hit only hinders them, so unless you're at a short loop, you kind of don't want to go for that at all. So, but your instinct, not only in Dead by Daylight projectile killers, but ranged games in general, like playing FPSs and stuff, is to not miss your targets. But this character punishes you for hitting your target, which is the most, you know, absolutely backwards thing in the universe, and it's just like really confusing. So, like, yeah, that might be a little weird to unlearn, and might be a process you may not want to go through. I think in general, I found his teleports way more fun than the rest of his kit. Just like having a lot of map mobility, kind of thinking about, you know, okay, well, the teleport's building up. Where do I want to place this? And insta teleporting mid chase, kind of like Dredge and Nightfall. I liked that aspect of his power more than the actual like bounce attack, which is funny because I'm one of those people that loves to go for like clip shots. Like obviously I do that on Xenomorph all the time, but I actually like to teleport more because the M2 actually felt super clunky. So yeah. In terms of his perks, I was kind of underwhelmed by the perks. Unbound, I barely even noticed was a thing. I was running it for like an hour and a half while doing adept stuff, and I barely noticed this perk ever come into effect. I will probably throw this on the Xenomorph build, in terms, because there's a fun Xenomorph build that I have in the Xenomorph guide, specifically for vaulting fast, so I'll probably throw it on that and just have like a fun meme build with that. But in terms of like consistent value, I don't see why you would run this over like Superior Anatomy or Bamboozle. There's just kind of just like, it's very, very specifically made to be run with those perks and does not stand on its own in absolutely any way and has zero benefit to be run by itself. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Unforeseen is just a better version of Trail of Torment. And there's not much more to that. That's it. It's just a better version of Trail of Torment. I ran this a lot today. I ran it with my Nowhere to Hide kick build. It's just better Trail of Torment. So if you're like Trail of Torment, this is a better version of this perk. It kind of begs the question, why run Trail of Torment at this point? Because Unforeseen just does its job except better. And I hope they either I hope they give Trail of Torment something to kind of make it have some sort of reason to run that instead of this, because currently right now you should just run Unforeseen if you like Trail, because it's just a better Trail. Undone was the surprise perk that I actually did not get like basically any value out of, which I thought was pretty interesting. I said this in my initial PTB thoughts, is that like the higher MMR you get, the more people land their skill checks, even the more difficult ones. So like this perk is one of those that you get diminishing returns as you get better at the game and your MMR goes up. And I ran a skill check build, and I still was not getting value out of this perk. And even when I got value, I mean, like 6% is not a lot. like getting like the 3%, the 6%, getting the actual damage on the gen was not a lot and didn't seem worth it. So even while this perk was going burr, it didn't feel like it was actually affecting the game much at all. So I was kind of really underwhelmed by this perk too. Now we get to talk about Sable and Sable's perk. So Sable's perk, the big one that's probably scaring you as a killer main, is the invocation, the Weaving Spiders one. Though they have changed that recently to now, instead of just applying progress to gens, which could be undone, it's now like a BNP where those charges that it adds can't be regressed. So it actually takes off the total time needed to take a gen. This was way more helpful than it was in the PTB. The way I made this work, I got value out of 3 out of 4 games that I ran it, was that I was running a intentionally injured build. So I'd run like Resilience and Dead Hard or Deadline, Hyper Focus, stuff like that, you know, activates and makes your character stronger while they're injured, because obviously after you complete the invocation, you are broken for the rest of the game. You essentially are a no mither character. So run things you would run with a no mither build. And when you do that, it's actually fairly helpful. What I found with invocation is it's actually more helpful to apply it in the mid game after some gens are already done, to kind of like squeeze out a victory instead of trying to apply it at the beginning. When survivors apply at the beginning, it's a big time sink, and by the time you actually get it into effect, there's so many hook states on the map that it kind of doesn't feel like it was worth it. But if it's to like, if you're doing it in the mid game, it could actually be decisive in actually pushing out the final gens, which it was 3 out of 4 times that I did use this. So it's actually fairly helpful now. It's one of those things that it also, if you don't bring distortion, there's a lot of aura reading perks in the game, so I feel like it's fairly easy to get caught in the basement, which is kind of scary. But you know, survivors already love distortion, so they're probably gonna be running distortion with this as well. Just kind of monka. I don't know, it feels, at least right now, day 1 of play, it feels balanced. It feels worth it to sit in the basement and use the invocation, but on the killer side, whenever it was applied, I didn't feel like it was winning the games for the survivors, but I definitely felt an immense extra amount of pressure from the survivors after an invocation was finished. So it was maybe it's in a good spot. I hope it stays that way. I hope, fingers crossed, I hope it stays that way. There's not some way that Swifts are out here going to abuse it and make it miserable. Striking the Shadows was already the big winner from Sable's perks, and it continues to be. Going into basement and healing up with self-care just It's just a great perk. It's a well-designed perk. There's a risk to it that you were going down into basement, and you have to be sneaky about going down the basement before you start self-caring yourself. But it is better than self-care, so like it's not going to be as much of a time investment. It's just nice. It's just a nice perk, and then that little 10% buff it got made even better. So Wicked's the funny one, because Wicked was the one that I was most afraid of when it came to like the dev update and the PTB. I never got this perk to go off once. I don't know if that's just because like all the killer mains right now are aware of it, so they're not hooking you in the basement, but I never got hooked in the basement once while running this perk. I literally stopped running this perk today because like nobody was hooking me in the basement. Even if I was trying to actively loop around basement to get value out of this perk, the killer would go out of the way to not hook me there. So I don't know. The perk I was literally the most afraid of, the one I was like scared about, like, okay, well, people are just going to force go down to your basement and force value out of this perk. I never got to go off, so maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's just a personal experience, but I literally never got this perk to go off, so I don't know. We'll see. But I never got value out of this, so that's something. The new map, if you've not taken a look at the Xenomorph guide and how I feel and assess that thing, it's 160 square tiles, so it's a fairly large map, but all the tiles are very, very, very weak. There's some formal tiles there that act as like formal jungle gyms. Most of them are very, very weak path palettes that are circumventable, even by M1 killers, just with like a simple like moonwalk. So this map is balanced in kind of like that Haddonfield-esque kind of way, where like both sides hate it for one reason or another, where like, you know, Haddonfield you dislike as killer because of the windows and the obnoxious buildings, but as survivor you hate it because of the middle of the street that's stupid and essentially a dead zone. You hate Greenfield Square as killer because it's freaking huge and hard to traverse if you don't have a movement ability, but you hate it as survivor because there's a bajillion pallets, but they're all super weak. So if there's any indication of how we feel about Haddonfield, I'm not too enthused with how people are going to feel about the gameplay on this map. I do think it's aesthetically one of the prettiest maps in the game, and in terms of original maps, it is my favorite. Part-time puzzle? I don't think I've ever... This part-time puzzle person, I have never, ever accepted their friend request. They have friend requested me for like an extremely exorbitantly long period of time. I've never accepted their friend request. I don't know why they still try. Anyways. But yeah, Greenfield Square, most beautiful original map they've ever made. It is literally aesthetically like the arcade, the eerie night lighting of the actual environment itself. The statue is cool. The theater is cool. Like everything they did about this aesthetically is like a 20 out of 10. Gameplay, different conversation, but like aesthetically 20 out of 10. My favorite original map in terms of aesthetic. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, what do you guys feel about the All Things Wicked chapter release? How do you feel about the killer and the perks, and how do you feel about the survivor and the perks? Let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, that's it for today's video, friends. But I do upload daily, so I will see you tomorrow. But if I do not, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.